Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls all over the world, people are watching us now, and we've had 2 enormous days of thought provoking and thought leadership sessions at the FSM 2020. This is by far has been a really global event. Thousands of people have been following us on Facebook Live for our sessions, which started yesterday on the 27th and the 28th. Today, November, we are back here in session number 4, and it's a very enchanting panel discussion. We've lined up some celebrities from our corporate world of logistics as well as our maritime industries. We will introduce the session, and but before that, we will have to go Facebook Live. So just give me a moment, and I will turn on our Facebook Live for this event. Okay. Yes. We're going live now on Facebook. Yes, so now FSM 2020 session 4 is live now for everybody to watch on Facebook. I will hand over this session now to our session host, Sudha. Sudha is going to give an introduction, and then we are going to introduce and hand over the microphone to Mr. Hajra. Mr. Hajra is having a little bit of audio issues, and we will take it as it comes. And meanwhile, Sudha, you can take over, please.
Good afternoon to everyone. And we have a very interesting session for this afternoon titled Future of Work, New Employment Opportunities Ashore. Growth of the tertiary sectors. And we are honored to invite Mr. Sabyasachi Hazra as our esteemed moderator of the session. Before I hand over the session to Mr. Hazra, we take a few minutes to introduce our panelists who are highly accomplished and leading professionals of the maritime world.
Mr. Sabyasachi Hazra, former CMD Shipping Corporation of India, Varuna Awardee. Mr. Hazra holds a bachelor's degree of science in chemistry from the University of Calcutta, a postgraduate diploma in management from the Indian Institute of Management, IIM Kolkata, an LLB and a postgraduate diploma in shipping and international maritime law and marine insurance from the Norwegian Shipping Academy. He joined the Shipping Corporation of India Limited in 1973 and in 2005 assumed charge as chairman and managing director. After holding the charge for more than 7 years, he superannuated on December 31st, 2012. He is a past president of the Indian National Shipowners Association and former chairman of CII, National Committee on Shipping for 8 years. The Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers UK has elected him as an emeritus member, the only person from India to have been thus elected. He was also a director and vice president of the International Shipping Federation. He is the only Indian to have featured in the top 100 list of both Tradewinds and Lloyd's list as the most powerful shipping personalities in the world. Among other awards, his most cherished and coveted award has been the prestigious Varuna Award, the highest award of the maritime industry conferred by the National Maritime Day Celebration Committee on the National Maritime Day 5th April 2016. He is only one out of 2 individuals in Asia on whom Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers London have awarded honorary emeritus membership. Even after superannuation, Mr. Hazra continues to be like a lighthouse of the industry. The Naval Connection is proud to host Mr. Sabyasachi Hazra as a moderator at the FSM 2020. Captain Vinod Naveen, Professor, Indian Maritime University and researcher on blockchain. Captain Vinod Naveen works at the Indian Maritime University as an associate professor in the School of Nautical Studies. He has held the position of principal of a maritime academy for about 10 years prior to this assignment. He is also an external examiner for the nautical competency exams with DG Shipping. He is a member of the Nautical Institute London and secretary of the India Southwest branch. His first career job was at sea, where he served as a navigation officer and master. He maintains an interest in seafaring by participating in various shipping conferences and seminars. He is adept at organizing various maritime events. He recently held an event in appreciation of the Secretary General of IMO for their efforts for the seafarers during the pandemic. He is currently pursuing PhD in blockchain technology and its applications in the maritime industry. The Naval Connection proudly presents Captain Vinod Naveen as speaker at the FSM 2020. Mr. David Birwadkar, Vice President, Training and Assessment, Great Eastern Shipping Company. David began his career with Shipping Corporation of India in 1983 as junior engineer and rose to the rank of chief engineer by 1995 in Wallam Ship Management. His short career started with Wallam London in 1998 as technical superintendent, and he subsequently shifted to India after joining SR Shipping as technical head, tankers. David Birwadkar is presently working as Vice President, heading Training and Assessment Department in the Great Eastern Shipping Company Limited, India's largest private sector shipping company, having joined there in December 2006. He has a degree in mechanical engineering, and thereafter he completed his marine engineering training from Mumbai Port Trust. With a background of 35 years professional experience, he contributes by writing technical articles for the shipping periodicals and speaks at shipping seminars in India and abroad. Besides shipping, he is passionate about cricket and has played club cricket in Mumbai and London. The Naval Connection proudly presents Mr. David Birwadkar as speaker at the FSM 2020. Ishwar Achanta, Managing Director, Indo-Pacific Solution Private Limited. Ishwar Achanta is a co-promoter and Managing Director of Portman India Private Limited and is also the Managing Director of Indo-Pacific Solution Private Limited, a Chennai-based shipping services company since 2010, providing stevedoring service. Along with his son Ishan, he has co-founded Ultra Insights Private Limited, which is a data-driven business insights firm using data analytics to enhance decision-making processes for sectors like ports, terminals, ship owners, freight forwarders, ship agents, stevedores, and warehousing and pharmaceutical manufacturers, apart from food and agriculture. Ishwar has served as a trustee appointed by the Ministry of Shipping, Government of India, on the board of Visakhapatnam Port Trust, and as a trustee on the board of Chennai Port, representing the Hindustan Chamber of Commerce, where he is a council member. He has served as the vice chairman of Chennai and Ennore Ports Ship Agents Association and as a director of the Federation of Ship Agents Association of India. He is currently the president of the Chennai Ports Stevedores Association since 2013. He is also a member of the National Shipping Board. The Naval Connection proudly presents Mr. Ishwar Achanta as speaker at the FSM 2020.
Ms. Sanjam Gupta, Executive Board Member, World Maritime University. Sanjam Gupta is Director for Sitara Shipping Limited, and an advocate for diversity in the maritime industry. She is a founder member of Vista India and board member of Vista International, as well as a member of the executive board of directors of the World Maritime University, Malmö, Sweden. She has won several awards, most prominent being the Sandvik Gender Award for outstanding contribution and commitment to gender equality. Glenmark Pharmaceuticals awarded her Woman of the Year 2019 in March 2019. In June 2019, she was invited as part of a high-level panel initiative by the Norwegian Prime Minister Erna Solberg for a sustainable ocean economy, which comprised a group of world leaders from coastal states committed to ocean action in support of the Sustainable Development Goals. In February 2020, she was named as one of the top 100 women in shipping by All About Shipping UK. The Naval Connection proudly presents Sanjam Sahi Gupta as a speaker at the FSM 2020.
Sanjam, we are sorry that we couldn't give you a manual class here. And Mr. Amar Singh Thakur, who is who's supposed to be a part of this panel, got stuck up in Delhi at the last moment and sent in his apologies, and he can join now. Do we have Mr. Sabyasachi Hajra now?
I am getting an echo.
Do we have Mr. Sabyasachi Hajra now? Sir, can you hear me? Mr. Sabyasachi Hajra is having a slight audio issue since the morning. Sir, can you hear me? Mr. Hajra, sir, we can see you. Can you hear us? Okay, so I think he's lost connection. He might be at a place with low bandwidth. Since we will try to rectify his issue, but meanwhile, if I can call up Sanjam and just ask her to say a few words on how technology has been progressing in our lives and affecting the way that we work. And Sanjam, you're heading a logistic company yourself, and apart from all the many things that you're doing and representing World Maritime University as well, and you are a very, very big name, and we are all so proud to have you in India with us and in all the panel discussions that you attend. And coming to the logistics sector, a lot of technology aspect has happened like all the other sectors as well. And how do you think it is affecting the way the logistics sector is not only giving employment to people who are trained in logistics, but maybe new opportunities that are coming up because of digitization? If you can throw some light on this, and then I think a lot of people in our industry, maritime industry, there's a lot of gray areas regarding logistics and the understanding and how it works. Coming from you, I think it will going to clear a lot of doubts. Sanjam?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I think I always really enjoy the interactions with the students who are actually the future of the maritime industry. And if we as an industry are to progress and are to do better, are to excel, then we depend on this pool of young people who actually will form the future of our industry, not only within India, but also overseas. So I see today that due to the pandemic, we have had to adapt technology faster. The shipping industry historically has always been very slow to adopt technology. Due to the pandemic, we have accelerated the pace of adaptation of these technologies, which in one way is great because it offers tremendous opportunities to offer higher efficiencies. On the other hand, it offers also a lot of threats with regards to cybersecurity. But what the good news is that it does offer a lot of opportunities for, I think, the mariners or for the young people who want to kind of come forge a sector ahead in the logistics industry, which is actually the future, which is the future industry to be in. The reason I say this is because we know that there's a huge shortage of the number of skilled workforce that we have within the logistics industry. I'm also on the governing council of the logistics sector council, and we know that it's been a challenge to attract more and more talent. This sector is going to be booming, and actually this is where I think people should aim to be. So if you're a young student, or if you have sailed and you want to come on shore, I think the great thing is that you already possess the technical skills, the expertise. But I think what would be lacking, or what I would advise a lot of students, is that you have to kind of upgrade your technical skills to adopt the new technologies. Today, we're looking at digitization having greatest impact in shipping on various levels. One is, you see the e-platforms that are coming on. Traditionally, shipping companies would follow a very old-fashioned process. This is all getting wiped out. Everyone's going online. And while these systems themselves are great, we need people to kind of man these systems or provide support to them. You talk about advanced analytics, you talk about demand forecasting, dynamic pricing, the Internet of Things, AI. We're talking about autonomous vessels and vehicles coming up. There are, due to blockchain, documentation is becoming so much easier. But there's all this, for all these things, even for the adoption of technology, the basic thing is that we need people. We need people to implement the technology. And all shipping companies who are going to adopt these technologies, firstly, they have to have a digital vision. But who is going to implement this digital vision? Throughout the organization, from top to bottom, it's going to be the human factor. It's going to be people who will be implementing this vision. Today, I think the strongest threats from players adopting digital technology as a basis for an assetless business model is that they are competing, to compete with them with they're competing with a lower cost base. Players such as DP World, which was originally a port company, is now into backward and forward integration and are offering end-to-end solutions. If you see the latest adverts that are even running on mainstream media, they are projecting themselves as a global logistics player. So it's no longer that traditional players are also going to be talking about just being in just shipping or in the port sector. Everybody realizes that to be able to succeed for the future, they have to offer end-to-end solution, and that's where they would need a lot of talented workforce. So there's a lot of threat to the current players in the market by the intermediaries. But I think that supply chain processes also can't change unless certain processes like customs are simplified in countries like India and say Bangladesh. This, of course, is an industry we have no control over. But what we can control is the people who actually drive our systems, who will drive the future. For example, in the container industry, where I have been working since 2001, we see that processes have been simplified. Originally, it was that the container had to go to the port, and they have to a delivery order had to first be physically picked up. They had to go to the port, apply for Form 13. Now everything is done through the digital medium. And the players who are entering this industry are more often than not people who are non-traditional players. So in Nhava Sheva, we see Odex by Liji Noval, and she's a great example which I cite very often because she does not belong to our industry. But she has revolutionized or changed the way we do things here. So in that case, even for the youth, people who don't belong to our industry, this is an industry which offers tremendous potential. Even if you don't have a background, even if you have no, family connections, or you've not, even gone to sea, this also offers opportunities for them, and huge opportunities, I think, for maritime startups at this point, because of the disruptions that are being offered, I think anybody who has a great idea that can revolutionize or make processes better can actually, I feel this is the right time to launch a startup, of course, with the due diligence done. I think there is so much that the industry needs to do, and the traditional norms no longer exist. So, for example, when I entered the industry, I was told this is the way things are done. These are the players, and these are the kind of the rules of the game. The rules of the game no longer exist today. It's all changed. And unless we as an industry kind of upgrade ourselves for the challenges of tomorrow, we're not going to sustain. And for that, what do we need? We need the best people. We need skilled manpower. We need to adopt to technology, and we need these amazing young people out there who are actually going to help us drive this change. Another thing where I feel we need greater attention is cybersecurity, and people are facilitators again for the cybersecurity. We hear about global giants, ports, shipping lines, who have actually had to, suspend operations over a series of days because their entire systems were hit by cyber attacks. Now, for somebody who's specializing in technology, for young people, I think this is a huge opportunity because carriers, the logistics industry is going to need people to man their security systems. Another thing that I feel is going to kind of really change things is the blockchain concept. It's revolutionizing the way we are doing documentation. And I think we're going to go on making more and more improvements. So I think what young people need to do today is not look at the next 5 years, but kind of look even ahead. Even if you're going to see today, I think you need to have a plan in place, because eventually if you're going to come on shore, I think this industry offers tremendous potential to you. Captain Mukherjee, I think this should be good for a beginning,
Okay,
and then we can take the question and answers.
Yes, that is extremely good for a beginning, and you've set the tone actually, Sanjam. And thank you for bringing your insights into the logistics and how technology is moving our lives at every instant, and how the future of work is depending on what we learn today. And maybe the learnings are not enough only if we learn things that are apparent and can be used today, but things that are going to work tomorrow. Thank you, Sanjam. Thank you for bringing your perspective into this. We will come back to you with the question answers. Now, can I request David Birwadkar to please use his time and just illuminate us with his ideas on how technology and the future of training is changing our lives. Yes, David, we can see your screen very well. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, great. So then let me start.
Yes.
So I don't know if Mr. Hazra is still here, but let me just.
Mr. Hazra is actually having issue with the bandwidth, so he had to log off because we couldn't hear him. He's there at the background, but yeah, so he's asked me.
So then anyway, I still need to address him because he's still the moderator.
Of course.
So respected Sri Hazra, esteemed fellow panelists, respected guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, a very good afternoon to you all. Very thankful to Captain Shaukat Mukherjee for giving me this opportunity to speak at such a glittering event. This has been a very successful one from the looks of things, despite being on a virtual platform and despite being over 2 days. Hence, many congratulations for such a venture, Shaukat. It is considered a normal transition after you become a master or chief engineer on board to come ashore as a superintendent. For chief engineers, they get absorbed in the technical department of shipping companies, both owners and operators. Also, they look for opportunities in classification society as surveyors, flag state surveyors, etc. They can also get opportunities in a few non-marine sectors like hotel industry or hospitals as maintenance engineers. For deck side, they normally get into shipping companies as in operations, chartering with a little bit of additional qualification, fleet personnel department, safety and quality department, etc. They could also join flag state as surveyors and other similar jobs. But this scenario has gradually changed, or in the last few months or few years, rapidly changed. And Ms. Sanjam aptly mentioned a few of those points. So they are probably also part of my presentation, but I would like to still stress on them. So what has happened is that non-mariners also who wish to enter the marine sector, they have lot more scope for them. Awareness, etc., etc. So let's look at what's in store for everyone here.
Yeah, David, did you stop your presentation by any chance?
No, can you see it? No.
No, we just it just stopped, so I just thought maybe you'll bring
Can
it
you see
back
it
again.
now?
No, you can share once again and bring it back.
Okay, let me do it. Technology.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we are also really looking forward to hearing Captain Vinod Naveen. Yes, David, we have your screen again, so you can please continue.
Okay. So what I was mentioning was that in today's time of the pandemic, the scenario has become really difficult. The number of jobs which are lost due to COVID-19 has far surpassed the losses which happened during the 2007-2009 Great Recession, and no one's sure how many of the jobs are coming back. While a large number of people have got unemployed across the sectors, this crisis has also created new type of opportunities in various sectors, including maritime sector. COVID-19 has created a paradigm shift in how we think about work and how business protect their employees and customers. So let me show you the next slide. It's this slide. So the demand for new safety related roles will continue to grow, and companies will continue to evolve their workplace practices with stricter health protocols and more flexible work options. Some roles that are likely to emerge across the sectors post pandemic, including health and safety workers that provide deep cleaning and sanitization services also. Demand for many of these jobs has risen quickly and is expected to grow further in the coming time. The shipping industry has led to a adaptation of new various sorry it just keeps going away. The shipping industry has led to the adaptation of various new technologies such as blockchain, the internet of things, the artificial intelligence, which will further generate consultancy jobs ashore for our seafarers who seem to be in demand. It has become important that our seafarers adopt the necessary digital tools required to secure jobs in these emerging fields during the time of industry turnaround. The recent digitization of the maritime training is also projected to create new job opportunities for skilled maritime professionals as they are no longer limited by geographical boundaries. There is an increase in demand for skilled professionals within the industry across the maritime sector in India. Various maritime related job options available are naval architect, marine engineer, tug masters, marine pilots, harbor masters, ship surveyors, shipbuilding engineer. Also, other job opportunities are marine or technical superintendent, as I mentioned, maritime reporter, marine environmental management, maritime law, ship management, maritime HR, and maritime security, which has become a far more consequence in the recent past, shipbroking and ship finance. Additional jobs available are maintenance engineers on ports, vessel IT support technician, cyber security, which is the latest in thing, expert and analysis both, quality inspector, port agency manager, marine quality assurance, and business development manager. Supply manager, marine claims manager in PNI, fleet administrator, HSEQ advisor, marine spare part supplier, power system analyst, business intelligence developer are a few of the many listed jobs for the seafarer ashore. Now we look at the Indian maritime industry and see what's in store there. The Sagarmala project initiated by the government of India will further enhance the employment opportunities by unlocking the true potential of inland waterways and the coastline across the country. Its objective is to promote port-led development in the country through harnessing India's large 7,500 long coastline, but also the 14,500 kilometers of potentially navigable waterways and strategic locations on key international maritime trade routes. The four pillars identified under this program includes port modernization and new port development, port connectivity, and port-led industrialization, which has a tremendous potential to generate new jobs. It also aims at transforming the existing ports into modern world-class ports and integrate the development of ports, the industrial clusters, and hinterland and efficient evacuation systems through road, rail, inland, and coastal waterways, resulting in ports becoming the drivers of economic activity in coastal areas. As of now, 500 projects have been identified. Out of this, 143 projects have been completed and 190 projects are already under implementation. Remaining set of 167 projects are under various stages of development and expect completion well within 2035. Potential behind inland waterways and ways to tap it has resulted in declaration of 111 waterways as national waterways in 2016 through the relevant act. Utilization of these waterways will not only serve to provide an economical, fuel efficient, environmentally friendly mode of transportation, but also a cheap and easy way of transporting passengers and goods throughout this country, thereby generating additional employment. Extensive infrastructure work that has already been completed on National Waterway 1, National Waterway 2, Indo-Bangladesh Waterway Protocol to the tune of 1,000 crores in the last 3 to 4 years. Inland waterways has witnessed a multifold increase between years 2012-2013 to 2019-2020. A potential of 30% cargo movement to waterways would mean that a large number of vessels would require to be built, giving a boost to the shipbuilding and thereby impetus to all ancillary industries, which will turn up having great employment potential. Utilizing inland waterways and supporting the projects like Earth Ganga has led to commercialization of waterways, providing infrastructure support like jetties, giving navigational aid and coordinating passenger traffic through tourism. A holistic unified approach by different sectors of transportation will result to boost all the sectors and likely coexist and cohabit in a peaceful fashion and not at the expense of road and or transport by having a regulatory approach to connect the business with the requirement of the industry. Coming to the project that they Make in India initiated by our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, this will also provide an opportunity to at least double the number of Indian flag vessels in the immediate term from present approximately 450 to 900 over a period of 3 years, leaving further scope for generation of employment ashore for our seafarers and attracting additional investment in the Indian flag tonnage. Then the goal to transform India into a ship repair hub needs a robust ecosystem for ship repairing facilities. As such, it requires upskilling and the expertise of Indian seafarers, service engineers, and maintaining the supply of required spare parts, which will further provide new employment ashore, such as supply chain analysts and data analysts, and many different career opportunities. Looking at the tertiary sector, further open doors among industries include the likes of marine tourism, recreation, and especially fisheries. Employment in tertiary sectors in the coming years, the marine finance and insurance industry, marine offshore navigation, hotel operations, marine biotechnology, marine biologists, etc., are some of the industries that can boost employment opportunities in the coming year. In the job market of tomorrow, the capability of the seafarer will be of paramount importance due to constant changes in the nature of jobs, working spaces, and work and rest hours. As work availability itself becomes a source of stress and anxiety, which can be better handled by a maritime professional with specialized knowledge in shipping and logistics, as well as strong management competencies such as leadership, teamwork, communication, and problem-solving skills. New employment opportunities require many facets such as knowledge, of course, which they already have, ability, sincerity, willingness, healthiness, operational skills of specific types, approved qualification and certificate by regulatory authorities. The importance of expertise provided by professional seafarers who intimately understand the rules, customs, and practices of operating ships at sea and in port because they have done it has meant that throughout the modern history of shipping, there has always been substantial strategic and tactical advantage in having a backroom technocratic corps of ex-seafarers. Due to constant advancement in technology, there are several jobs that do not require seafarers to be working on board a ship throughout their life. They must look at various options available towards upskilling themselves in the field of their choice. So the bottom line and most important aspect is that it would not be enough to have your certificate of competency, but would need add-ons like extra masters, extra chiefs, MBA, and then specific knowledge, skill set, and certification to the various jobs which were elaborated earlier. A career in the maritime sector, therefore, has one of the innumerable possibilities for candidates who are interested in pursuing the same. So the challenge is to evolve oneself and be ready for the challenges which may be far different than the ones which one has encountered on board. And then the approach to that also may be different from the way we have dealt with earlier. But knowing how we seafarers have been used to facing challenges out at sea of the most severest and challenging kind, including life-threatening at times, I'm sure this would all be taken in the broad strides we are all used to taking. So I guess the question answers will be the end of the session, so we can look at that. So thank you so much. With this, I end my presentation and what I had to say.
David, such a lovely presentation, and the best part was that you covered actually all aspects of our session today, because you talked about the future of work. You not only talked about the future of work, you gave us the insights into what are the levels. And at my level, I talked to a lot of seafarers, and one of the concern is that at what levels are they going to be employed, and what is the employment criteria. So beautifully you have explained the different opportunities that will be evolving in the future and that present. I also like your Make in India campaign. One of the beauties of this event is that we've been able to highlight Indian seafaring, Indian technology firms, and Make in India campaign over the last few days to the world. And thanks for highlighting that. Another sector which you touched upon is also the tertiary sector, because I understand, I mean, your core competencies and thing is marine, but you touched upon also the tertiary sector. So thanks for bringing in all together. In fact, I think it was a wonderful presentation where we got to know of how the technology is being happening and what benefit it is going to do for the present day and for the future of work. So thanks, really. Now I'm eagerly waiting for, we are all eagerly waiting for Captain Vinod Naveen, and like we have seen in his heard in his introduction, Vinod is doing a lot of studies and a lot of research and a lot of work into blockchain, and this is why he's a prime speaker here. And Captain Vinod, we would like you to just elaborate and how I've been told that it's high time that blockchain is also going outdated. A lot of new things are coming over blockchain, because we've been talking about blockchain for the last few years now, but in shipping it is not yet come in a very big manner. But by the time it comes in, maybe it will become outdated. So if you can really highlight the other technological aspects of blockchain together with other technologies and blockchain as well, and how it is affecting the various inputs that govern shipping, and how it is going to affect the future. Is it going to make work easier on board, and how how this blockchain technology will infuse and which find its way into the mainland shipping. Captain Vinod Naveen, over to you.
Yeah, let me just share my screen. And we tried out, it was all okay, but now the share screen button is not helping me.
Don't worry. So I will tell you. I will ask you to do something that you
Yeah.
can close the that PowerPoint presentation and then reopen and try it one more time. Sometimes that works wonderfully well.
Sorry, to close what?
You close the PowerPoint presentation and then
Oh,
open it again and then try to share your screen once more.
okay, okay.
If you want, by the time you're doing this, we can go and we can talk to Mr. Ishwar Achanta as well. So we don't lose time. You can try it on one more time, and if it doesn't work, then we will take it off, take it with you separately, and then we'll go to Mr. Ishwar Achanta.
Yeah, I think that's better because it's still not coming on.
Okay, okay, Mr. Achanta. So lovely having you with us, and you have such a versatile experience across different genres in maritime as well, and you bring in a perspective of working and heading and leading the Stevedores Association, and Stevedores is a major part of port operation, and that's why we want thought of picking your brains and picking your mind into going deep into your minds as to how it is affecting the future of work, because technology is not only happening on board a ship, it's also happening outside it, and the way India and other countries are investing in smart ports and new technologies are coming in and making ports all the more busier and all the more technologically advanced and digitized. How is this going to affect the future of work, and as a mariner or as somebody who's coming from outside? So over to you, Mr. Achanta. Mr. Achanta, can you hear us?
Yeah, thank you, Shaukat. Thank you for this opportunity to. Yes, I can. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
All right. So thank you, Shaukat. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with very eminent people. Greatest respects for Mr. Hazara, a very senior doyen in our business, and young Sanjam, if I may take the liberty of calling you that. You've been making great waves, particularly in gender diversity. Thank you for being on this panel, Mr. Bilwarkar, Naveen. Good to see you guys. So I bring a different perspective into my own life. You know, I've been a former mariner. I've spent 10 years as a trust board, two of our major ports. I'm currently on the National Shipping Board. To my colleague Gani listening in. So I'm sure Gani will bear with me when I make references to some of the things that we do on the board. I also have the very special privilege of leading the Federation of Association of Stevedores, which is a body which has 100 companies in this country who are the actual waterfront warriors, if I may use the word, particularly during COVID. Everybody, and when the government declared ports to be an essential service, didn't come into mind to dispatch. Coming up, please, Sudha. Shaukat, are you sharing presentation for me?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. If you want me to play, I'll play the presentation for you. No problems. Okay. We have it ready. Here it comes.
Yes.
Yes, this is it. Just do a full screen, please. Yes, Mr. Achanta, here it is.
This picture is, this picture is very symbolic of what India was in the 70s. Of course, I was a youngster then, but the records show that the Port of Singapore Authority sent a team to the Port of Chennai Madras Port, then it was called, to study how we were unloading coal. And believe it or not, coal used to be discharged by women walking up and down the gangway carrying coal as head loads. And that's how, the stevedoring was done in those days of discharging coal. So I will speak to you today as the president of the Association of Stevedores. I will also dip into my experience as National Shipping Board member. Next one, please. So this is, go to the next one. The next one. Yes. So Birwakar spoke about a huge range. No, you got to go back. Back, please. Yes. So Mr. Birwakar spoke about a huge range of opportunities for mariners stepping ashore. So I just want to can you go back? Yes. So I found this graph made a few years ago by one of the big five, and this picked up demand for skilling or for in job opportunities in our state. So they captured the entire the logistics industry, and the inference was this demand is shift centric. And I've used several years now to drive home the point available in our sector, and this includes the blue-collar, unskilled workers, right up to CEOs and top managers and seafarers stepping ashore to take on white-collar jobs. And this is the number, ladies and gentlemen, that one needs to deal with going forward. 50 million jobs that are available. So when you go to the waterfront opportunity, the next, please. So I have put this little graphic here, which we used in one of our presentations when we did the Maritime Port Vision 2030 document. This has approved and perhaps waiting to be President, Prime Minister. Now, the intent is not for you, the viewer, to see or read what is in each of those little icons, but suffice to say that on the waterfront, there's a huge gamut, a huge range of job opportunities that remain unfulfilled, or jobs that are available for us to. Now, I'm not just about the labeling part, the physical unloading cargoes, but the actual when what it goes to, and first time it's received in the port until talked about on the and say we can upskill people who are Honorable Minister has signed, Minister of Shipping has signed with the Ministry of Skill Development, and state, I believe, to be a great encouragement of the employment ports and shipping business going down the road. He proposes creating apex centers of excellence. This is people to create those centers of excellence which are required to fill up those jobs that are available in the market. Can I move the next, please? While we are going to the next screen, what I have seen, India is not prepared for this rapid change. Sanjam talked about how how the concept has changed. And she was right. I belong to that generation. When I walked into a shipping office after I quit the sea, I was told this will be done. And to challenge that, it took a lot of decades on. Young are not going to have to make it that they born with it, something that your generation would to do. So what this 20 privilege of being nominated to four.
I'm sorry, Mr. Achanta. I'm sorry. Apologize to interrupt you.
This topic about
Mr. Achanta. Mr. Achanta. Hello.
Looking at is that our Indian ports are.
Achanta.
Yeah.
Mr. Achanta, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, just give me a moment here. I'm sorry, apologize to interrupt you, but I think there is a huge audio lag. So can I request the speakers to just keep your videos on low definition? We have an option. If you click on your videos at the bottom of your screen, we have a high definition, low definition video. Can we just kindly keep it on low definition so we don't have? There is a bandwidth issue probably at your end, but then we will continue like this and we will see how it goes. I'm sorry for the interruption. Please continue.
Okay, that's okay. So one of the working groups had to deal with what kind of ports will be, what the nature of the ports will be in India as we go down the road. So the unanimous conclusion was that to handle 2 billion that is projected by 2030, the ports in India have to be technology-driven, smart, and safe ports. There were no different opinion. It had to be the way. And the pity, was a term that was coined by one of the participants, that the first for existing to handle this 2.5 billion that will be technology, not for people like who still to catch not for to still 3-4 years.
Can I ask the speakers just to comment whether you can hear Mr. Achanta, because we've just lost his connection, I think. Yeah. Sanjam, are you able to hear him?
It's coming quite broken. Captain.
Yeah, it's broken for me also, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there is a audio lag from his end. Mr. Achanta, if you can hear us, if you can talk instead of if you can talk us through your presentation instead of sharing the screen, that would be a huge bonus, I feel.
Yes, sure. I can do that.
Because we are unable to hear you, all of us. Unable to hear you in the sense it's coming broken. So I think if you can stop sharing, or if you can just talk, I think this will be slightly better for us. And
Yes,
for the
okay.
remaining people who are.
You can take off the presentation. Yes, you can.
Okay.
You can take off the presentation. I'm just happy to. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe if you can run it at your end, and then you can just talk. That will be better, I think.
Yeah.
And then you can just talk. That will be better, I think. Yeah, please continue, Mr. Achanta. Please continue.
Just give me a second. Right. So, I was bringing to focus that by 2030, the way Indian ports can go ahead is through technology-driven, smart and safe ports. So that is a great opportunity that I see for the younger generation to step up and be counted. Now, one of the vision government is, as all of you know, there is a large pool of labor available within the port, which who have to use in federal ports. So one of the and this labor force obviously over the years has been reducing. So one of the thought processes is to eventually move to the landlord concept and allow terminal operators or stevedores or companies who are operating cargoes to bring in their own labor, skilled labor, ships. So if we are going to be doing 2.4 billion tons by 2030, and at the same time there's going to be a phase out of the skilled blue collar labor, as well as supervisory white collar workers, I see a huge supply demand that today, so that tomorrow come up. The processes and more to these younger generation of waterfront. I'm dealing only with waterfront issues. So what we have done, of
Mr. Achanta,
Federation of
I'll have to
Stevedores, and is that we have created a vision where we have set the three cornerstones of this
Mr. Achanta,
vision. Yeah.
I will have to come back to you again because it's this is really getting very, very inaudible and very, very breaking kind of audio stream. I'll give it a moment and think I will have to come back to you. I apologize.
Go to the next speaker.
Yeah, I think I'll come back to you after the next speaker. Meanwhile, I think because we can't hear you. You're coming very, very staccato.
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, but thank you. In whatever we heard of you, you spoke fantastically, and in fact, you started off speaking on 1970s. Some of us were not born then, but we can realize that the stevedores are taking out coal from the ship. I was speaking to the Director General of Shipping once a few months back, and we picked up this topic of women in coal mines, and that reminds me, in Jamshedpur there are a lot of women who are working in Jharkhand and in Bihar in coal mines. And there are a lot of women down below working at those pits of the coal mines. And when we talk about diversity and we talk about women at the forefront, they are really, really everywhere in our, and Sanjam would probably love hearing this, yes. And you have also mentioned a lot, and looking at your presentation, we were really taken aback many about 20 to 30 years back. But we'll come back to you, like I said. And now I will want to, again, I'm saying Mr. Amar Singh Thakur has been stuck up in Delhi and he could not attend this, but then we really miss him. And Vinod, I will try to share your screen now and you can take over from there. Is it okay with you?
That's fine if you can share.
Okay. I've just shared your screen.
Yeah, okay, great. I can see it. So can I start, Shaukat?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, at the outset, I would like to thank the Naval Connection, Captain Shaukat and his team for giving me this opportunity to speak at Future Skills Maritime, a truly global conference. And I would also take this opportunity to compliment Captain Shaukat and team, because what we see today and what we saw yesterday was just everything kept ready, the tables were ready. Just, I would say in shipping term, it's just a tip of an iceberg. But the kind of effort that you and your team has put in over the last 2 months for this 2 days is commendable. So great job, Captain Shaukat and your team for organizing this global conference. I would also start with asking a question. The question is, how many times have you heard this word distance? I mean, asking people to keep distance from people. And how many times have we actually met people over the last, let's say, 8 months? I would say we probably have met people more number of times than it would have not been a COVID time. I mean, just to give you an instance, Mr. Hajra, who was supposed to be the moderator of this event, I probably met him so many number of times over the last 8 months than probably I met him over the last 8 years. And so much so that yesterday we had a session with similar roles. He was the moderator, I was the speaker, And I took an anticipatory bail from him actually just before coming here. Sir, I'm going to use the same presentation. I hope I don't bore you. So that's how the things are today. Even though they say keep distance, we actually have probably met people more number of times than we would have met in normal times. Can I have the next slide? I would, I mean, just take you back probably to the late 80s, early 90s, and I think most of you must have seen this movie, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, where the kids were reduced to small sizes, and the movie revolved around their own struggles. Next slide. But today I would say I would just say use the word, Honey, I Shrunk the World into a virtual world. You can see how the world is shrinking in its size. Can you click once again? Today, probably the world is at your fingertips. They would say the world is at your fingertips. Just to give you a perception of what I mean, if I may ask this question, what is this virtual world to a very youngster, a kid? And I would say to him, the virtual world is he gets his toy delivered to his home. He just doesn't need to step out of his home. He doesn't need to go and choose in a shop. The toy gets delivered to his home. So that's virtual world to a youngster. If I define a virtual world to an elderly person, I would say it's you taking a virtual tour of the world. I mean, you're going into places where you would probably could never have been, through your virtual tour. And what is this virtual world for a young guy, young person, a young working professional? Before I leave my home, I click few buttons, and when I come back from work, I have the stuff delivered at my home. So that is the virtual world that we are living in, and we are taking advantage of that. We are having these kind of conferences virtually, and that is what has happened in today's world. Next slide. So when you're talking about virtual, we are talking about online. And when you're doing these kind of transactions online, there is immense flow of data. I would say millions and trillions of data is getting exchanged in this online transactions. Next. Can you click thrice? So we have an exchange of data. We have an exchange of data that is happening. One more time. Can you click? And when you exchange this data online, we do have some concerns and some serious concerns. Just to give you a comparison, just imagine before these online transactions, you want to deposit some money at the bank. You physically go yourself with the money. You physically fill up a form. You physically hand over the form to the teller, and you get it physically returned from the teller. And that is how we used to transact money at the bank. But today we are doing an online transaction, and when you do an online transaction, there are concerns, there are questions that is raised. What if the data that I exchange online is getting manipulated, and the transaction is happening between two unknown people? I really do not know that the money that I'm clicking few buttons and transferring it to, is it really going into the place where I intend, and where is it changing hands? So these are some of the concerns that we have with online transactions. Next. And there's a question about immutability. I mean, as I mentioned, at the university when we do conduct exams, we have this issue of immutability. I mean, when we used to have a physical examination, we know who is writing the exam, and at the end of the exam he hands over the paper to the invigilator. But today the student is writing an exam located at a far off distance, out of sight probably of the invigilator, and the answer sheet that we are getting, is it something that has been edited? Is it something that is original, or is it just getting duplicated? So there's a question about immutability when you have these online systems. Next. Can you click thrice? We also have a question of trust and transparency during online transactions. I mean, as I mentioned, you are face to face when you're doing a physical transaction, but when you're doing an online transaction, and with multiple people, you really have a trust deficit over there, and we do have a question mark on transparency. Next. Definitely, when we have data data online, there's an issue of cyber security, there's an issue of data security. I mean, just to give you an example, you have a locker at the bank. I go and deposit my whatever I'm trying to deposit at the bank in the locker physically, but here I am securing something digitally. Is that thing that I'm securing digitally secure, or is it getting edited? Is it getting manipulated? Is my data secure? So that's a question. One more click. And in online, and just imagine you are not doing this transaction with one person, and when you have multiple transactions, multiple people, this question about trust and trust deficit and data security is just going to go bigger. Next. Yes, everything that we do, and then physically we had a check for compliance. There was checklist, and whether we received the documentation, whether we received the right documentation, there were checks that was done. But how are you going to do these checks of compliance online? So there's a question mark over there. One more click. Are we complying with all the regulations that used to be complied with in a physical process? That's another question, that or an area of concern when we do this online transactions. Next. So the answer to most of the questions that I asked, I can go on and put up more slides of the question marks and concerns with online transaction, but blockchain is something that is giving a solution to immutability, a solution to trust or trust deficit, a solution to transparency, a solution to compliance, and blockchain is something which will help you to self-regulate things. So I would say blockchain is a solution to most of the questions that you just saw on the previous slides. Next. Just to, as Sanjam mentioned, blockchain is revolutionizing the industries today, and maritime industry is no exception. There have been areas in the maritime industry where blockchain is already in use. Logistics is one sector, and as you can see here in logistics, from an exporter or a shipper to the time when the goods actually reach the importer or the consignee, it changes hands, it changes multiple hands. I would say minimum 2 dozen people or many more. So this flow of information that happens in the logistics sector, it's very complex, and you don't want a situation where the goods have reached and the documentation is incomplete, because so many people are involved in the process that those documents need to be cleared at each one of them. And that is, and in logistics you say time is the most important factor. So you would like to have a process which can actually reduce the time but yet keep the originality or authenticity of the process. So supply chain and logistics is one area where blockchain has already been used. We had big shipping companies like Maersk Line, and in coordination with IBM, they have developed, and TradeLens, they have developed systems to simplify the process of documentation so that there is an ease of documentation in logistics. Next slide. Food supply chain, and just to take a small section of that logistic food supply chain, again it changes hands right from the time the goods are produced to it gets distributed to the wholesale market, to the to the retail market, and then finally to the end consumer. So as it changes, each one of them need to satisfy certain terms and conditions. So in a physical process, it's a time consuming process that you actually sit down and read all the contract and get all the contracts signed before you actually move the good. The blockchain makes it much more simpler by using a concept called smart contract. I will come to smart contract as we go on. Next slide. Again, taking an example of logistics, this is an example where on top you see there is a farmer who is trying to farm by not cutting down trees. So he's actually conserving nature, and then his goods are produced without chopping trees. And then finally, when it gets to the consumer comes to know that the product that he's buying is a product which is an eco-friendly product, and he wants to tip the farmer. He wants to incentivize the farmer by tipping him, but he's worried that how is he going to tip him? How if he goes to transact money to the farmer, will it actually reach the farmer, or are there going to be intermediaries who is going to take that money and the farmer never really gets that money or the tip? But in blockchain, that is made possible with various checks. The consumer can directly be in touch with the farmer, and he can ensure that the tips that he offer to the farmer for his innovative farming reaches actually the farmer. So these are possibilities that is possible with blockchain. Next slide. Can I have the next one? Yeah, so these are various applications of blockchain in various sectors, whether it is health sector, whether it is education, security, privacy, business, as we said, supply chain, or even in governance. There's a huge role that the blockchain plays in governance, in ensuring compliance, self-regulation. It also has a huge role to play in education sector. So these are some of the applications of blockchain in a broad perspective. Next slide.
Captain Naveen, sorry to interrupt you. We have a question answer session coming up very soon. Just want to tell you, we've got about 2 minutes to go for this one.
Yeah, I think 2 minutes is what I require. Great. Can you go to the next slide?
Sorry for interruption. Thank you so much.
So these are some of the applications in our sector, in the maritime sector, supply chain. I did mention e-governance that our flag state uses, or we can use blockchain for credit system in universities. We can use blockchain for ship survey and inspection coupled with artificial intelligence. The comprehensive inspection program can be automated and it can be made real time using blockchain. We can use blockchain in training and we can use blockchain in assessment. Next slide. So how does blockchain work? It moves from a centralized network into a decentralized network. Can you click again? As you know, there are a lot of disadvantages of having a centralized network. We are so dependent on that focal point, whereas in blockchain, we have a decentralized network. Everybody works independent, but works within the terms and conditions of the rules. Next. Some of the tools that we use for blockchain is biometrics, CCTV, scanners, QR code, OTPs, artificial intelligence. Next slide. Some of the soft tools that we use are called state channels, smart contracts, as I mentioned, AI modeling, facial match. So these are the tools that we use to make those applications which I showed into a reality. Next. Just to give you an example, look at the traditional contract. We have two parties, we have a third party. Next slide. Whereas in a smart contract, we eliminate the third party. Now, this is the biggest advantage of blockchain. We eliminate the intermediaries. And as you know, the more number of intermediaries are there in the process, it is going to be costly and it is also going to be time consuming. Just to say, for example, today when we do an online transaction, we are dependent on the bank or the payment gateway. In a blockchain, that bank or the payment gateway is going to be taken off and the exchange is going to happen between the two people. So that's the advantage of blockchain. Next slide. Next slide. Can you go next? Next. Next. So blockchain is basically an ecosystem where everything revolves around, and everybody, even though I've shown a centralized block, there is no centralized block because everybody is considered as equal. Next. Next. It uses a distributed ledger. Yes, there is a concern that when we are going to ask people to regulate, are they going to self-regulate? That is a question. I would take this as an example. You see the sun and the planets revolving around the sun. The sun does nothing. The sun is just there watching the planets revolve. But then everything and each and everything is controlled by the sun, even though it does nothing. So in blockchain, that is exactly what is happening. Once you define the rules of the game, the nodes, as we call it, the parties of the blockchain, they cannot play a game outside the rules, and that is the advantage of the blockchain. You don't need to really control or supervise. It gets automated. Next. These are some of the advantages of blockchain. You can see it is cost saving, traceability, 81% traceability. There are business opportunities. It is customer centric, and a whole lot of benefits that the survey had come out with if you're going to change the process and then use blockchain. Next. Next, you can skip the next two slides. I just put up the various applications, but I think I'll just skip it. If you ask the question of sustainability, now let's not be mistaken. Sometimes we get confused with sustainability with environment. Sustainability doesn't mean only environment. Blockchain is sustainable. When I say sustainable, it gives you the trust factor It gives you the transparency, it gives you an independence, but at the same time, it gives you self-regulation also. So yes, blockchain is sustainable. Next. So there are a lot of opportunities in blockchain in maritime sector, be it logistic, be it training, be it at e-governance, be it a whole lot of opportunities in blockchain. And if there is anybody who's interested in connecting for business opportunities, we are there for you. Next. Thank you. Just forgot to mention that I work at the Indian Maritime University, and I also do my research at the Indian Maritime University, and I'm also a member of the Nautical Institute London. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Captain Vinod Naveen. There is an apology which is pending from our side to you, and we didn't give you enough time exactly. Nobody can expect you to actually talk about blockchain in just about 15 minutes. We do understand it can take even 3 days of deliberation. So, apologize about the time factor. This is indeed a short session, but a hugely engaging session with you, Mr. Ishwar Ashanta, and Sanjam Intuit, and also David Birwarkar. We just have 10 minutes now because we've got back-to-back schedules. I would like to put one question each to all of you. And my question to Ishwar Achanta sir, I don't know whether your audio is still lagging, but I'll try my best to go to you. And like I said, you bring about a lot of history into your like experiences working with stevedoring. One question which I want to ask you is, with the influx of technology in ports and the way the ships are operating with new technology at every level, what is the training levels of stevedoring? Are they also being trained at equal levels that the ship handling expects them to handle new ships, new technology? If you can throw some light into that.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
All right. So, the stevedoring, the waterfront workers haven't kept pace with the advancement in technology. And that's one thing that the Federation is doing now. We've written a document, we have shared it with the Ministry of Shipping, and we hope to be able to upskill or reskill many of our waterfront workers to catch up with technology. So that is an area, a thrust area for us going down the next 4 or 5 years as we catch up with the changes that, and as I spoke about the modern technology-driven port, we need to have modern technology-driven stevedores to handle those cargoes as well.
Very good. Thank you so much, and it gives an insight into how it is building up. Thank you. But again, like I said, I would have loved to speak to you on this for much more time, but unfortunately, that's something we don't have right now. Coming back to David, David, your experience has been both in technical side in ships. You were the head technical, now you're the head of training. What skill gaps do you think are there in the industry now? And we've only talked about filling the skill gaps in maritime, especially engineering and the training side. You've seen both sides equally well.
So, first of all, I would like to say that it's a problem more not about upgrading the skills, but more about the mindset of people. When they come ashore and when they are in their jobs, they are feeling that they know everything. So once that happens, then and you stop learning, then you have already put a mental block. So you say, I'm busy with my daily work. So people are reluctant to upgrade or hone their skills. When they come ashore, they feel they already know everything, so they can do it. They are not easily adaptable to adapting to new technology, new way of dealing with things. There's so many different things now, like especially now we have like surveys being done by drones and so many other things which we do, artificial intelligence, and some issues which are there prevalent, like cybersecurity. So we need to be ready for this and be open to upgrading our skills, not just rest on our laurels and say we know it all. And so that's the biggest challenge, rather than giving them opportunities to be more skillful or whatever, because ultimately everything is available as part of training or as part of upgrading your skills. But if people say that they are reluctant, then you've already lost it. So that is something which the challenges of people changing the mindset. Secondly, I think there is a gap definitely. If you look at the maritime industry as compared to other industries, we are still lagging behind to come up to par with the technology and what is being used as the newer tools. They're more effective, more faster, and so we need to be open to the changes and adapt it. It is happening, as I said. I mean, we can see, we all heard all the esteemed speakers talk about that. It's happening, but as I said, it is not at the rate as desired, or not at the rate where other industries are doing it. So that's the challenge, and that's what we need to cope up, or cover up and come up to par with the rest of the industries.
Right. Thanks very much. Thanks. Great example. Thanks very much. And we have some chats coming in. Dr. Sanjay Bhavnani, as chairman of FOSMA, has tweeted, has just chatted in that excellent presentation, Captain Vinod Naveen. And I have Sanjam. Since you are there, I mean, I can't let you go without asking you a question on diversity. Of course, I would not be doing justice to all the work that you do. But speaking about diversity, there are two questions which I want to ask you. Very short. One is, Sanjam, you work equally in the logistics as well as the maritime. So, but both of them are interlinked in more ways than we know. So, while we are training people, and are we training equally well in logistics, or are we training not so well in maritime? And is there any difference of training or skill levels in logistics and maritime that you see?
Yeah, so I think both are, I mean, in my opinion, of course, I think with me on the panel are extremely senior people and they have much more experience. But in my opinion, I think we're kind of, shipping today in isolation does not exist, right, anymore. We all are part of that supply chain. And
Yes.
I think every player, so we cannot kind of address and say that this one thing. So every player has to play that same role in adopting to technology. I believe it's not that shipping has adopted. I believe we all are lacking equally behind. And maritime as well as logistics, we have the same challenge. We're not able to attract in India to attract the best talent. We kind of tend to get the leftovers for other sector. We're not the sector of priority. People don't come to our sector as the first priority to work. That's not the career of choice. I talk to a lot of young students in management in B schools. Nobody puts their hand up when we say who would like to work in the maritime industry, who would like to work in the logistics industry. It's just not the career of choice today. And I think on one hand, we as an industry have failed to kind of publicize the amazing career options. And two, we need to also kind of get rid of our old stodgy image. So I think we are lagging behind on both fronts, if that's the answer to your question. But I would just like to add, I just like to add one thing on the gender part of it, that I think the pandemic has offered huge opportunities for women now, because women can work remotely, where women were earlier not able to take up certain jobs, certain roles because of the travel, because of various other reasons. I think this is a huge plus point. Women can now work remotely. You could be working in a B town and working for a multinational company. You could be sitting in India and interning for a company in Greece. So huge opportunities for women, and we need to really step up and grab them.
Wow. Yes. I was coming to that question, Sanjam. In fact, like I said, I can't let you go without asking you this, and it's a golden question which you must have answered already thousands of times in your webinars. But is there, since this whole event over 2 days is on future skills and training and upliftment and rethinking on education, what, in very short, maybe a few lines, Sanjam, what is your advice to the regulatory authorities, governments, and bodies of power, bodies in power? What training changes would you see which will uplift and which will bring diversity and inclusion in the workforce in the maritime industry to a par?
I think it has to start with primary education, if I can say it, because as a mother to a 13-year-old boy, and I was following the current curriculum, I believe our education systems are outdated. I'm so sorry. What we're teaching them today is not preparing them for the skills of tomorrow. The jobs of today are not going to exist tomorrow. They're going to be completely different jobs tomorrow. We are not preparing our young children in the schools and colleges for those jobs. And that is where we are failing. We cannot tell them suddenly after graduation, okay, what you've been learning is completely not up to par. Now you have to upgrade yourself. How unfair is that? unless we kind of pull up our socks and sort out the primary and secondary education, you cannot suddenly tell them on a professional level, okay, now just mug it up, and do that. That's just not fair to the future kids. So I think we have to rethink the entire education system altogether.
Wow, you're getting a lot of thumbs up on this, Sanjam, in the chat box. Yes, thank you, Sanjam. And I'll come back to Vinod Naveen on the very, very last question of the day of this session. And a very quick one to you, Vinod. You are doing blockchain technology and research and maybe deeper study, higher study into blockchain. With technology is changing exponentially every day, every second. Do you think that when you complete blockchain technology studying, something else will come? So that's what happening in education. And if so, then what is this any particular implementation that you want to do by studying blockchain? Your answer would maybe motivate a lot of other students maybe who will be taking up higher studies in technology in future.
Yes, Captain Shaukat, one thing that we are taught, or one thing that we need to be mindful at the university today is that they say that when you train students, you actually train them for something that is 10 years ahead. And that's how the technology is changing. And that's how even shipping has started embracing technology today. So we really, we really need to be up there or in front of time, ahead of time, I would say, while we are training. But coming to blockchain, as I mentioned today, I would like to believe that in the maritime sector, there is a huge scope for blockchain, right? And as we saw that some of the huge shipping companies, especially in the logistics sector, because the logistics sector is a service industry where time is gold. So and the processes, you need to simplify the processes. So I think blockchain is really helping in bringing down those or simplifying those processes in logistics, and I'm sure it will have a lot of opportunities. I've had an interaction with various sectors in the maritime sectors, and they are all quite excited about application of blockchain. So I would like to leave it at that.
Thank you very much. Very, very, very learning experience talking to all of you. We from the Future Skills Maritime session 4, the penultimate session of the day. We would like to thank your participation and support. Without your support, we couldn't have had this amazing discussion. Thousands of people have watched us, including this session live over Facebook. We are going to get the recording of this and send it to you in person. And whatever the findings are, we are going to make a report out of the findings from all these things, and then we are going to put to the. Okay, Mr. Ishwar Ashanta, yeah, you said you would like to put a point. If it is, sir, we are running back-to-back schedule. I can give you a little bit of 30 seconds, or maybe a little bit 1 hour, 1 minute.
Very quickly, I just want to add that I have made a commitment to Sanjam that as we go forward in upskilling and reskilling on the waterfront, my commitment is that we will include as many women as are willing to come out and work on the waterfront in any aspect or any area of business.
So this makes me very proud also. It's only through these kind of events that we have partnerships, valuable partnerships, which is not only good for individuals, but it's also good for the industry at large. So thank you very much, sir, for this, and I will take this forward. And like I said, thank you so much, and it's been a really enchanting session. And we will go off Facebook Live right now, and then can we end this session? Thank you, namaste, and thank you for your support. For
Captain Shaukat,
yes,
Captain, just